Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I have Neuro Coffee in hand, and it is perfect. Outstanding. Another tremendously busy day. So this is really good. So the clinic is starting to pick up again, which is great. Able to help a lot of people that have been sort of sequestered, as we all have been. So this is really good. I got a great question on the Q&A. It's stuff that we haven't talked about in a while. So I was kind of excited about this. And so the question came from Rick, and Rick says, I'm having trouble helping my neck patients. I've used a number of techniques with good success, but not great success. I'm getting close to restoring full ranges of motion and also helping patients with pain relief, but I feel like I'm missing something. Do you have any thoughts or ideas that can help me clean up the leftovers when you know there's more change available? Quite possibly. So there's a lot of resources out there on the cervical spine and a lot of the fine mechanics and such, and that can drive you relatively crazy because it does seem like this really, really complex area. So let's really try to simplify this. There's a couple of things that stand out in the cervical spine, especially the lower cervical spine. So a lot of times when we're restoring neck range of motion, the upper cervical spine actually is fairly easy to restore in many cases. And so, a lot of people that do manual therapy get really, really good responses. But then when it comes time and you're checking those end ranges and you still have like that little bit of like pressure or pain at end range and they don't quite have this full comfortable range of motion, there's a couple of things and a couple of tells that will let you know where you need to go. So let me grab my little skeleton guy here. Okay, so we're going to talk about a little bit of dorsal rostral and lower cervical spine. So the shape of the facets in the lower cervical spine are not the same shape as they are higher up. So the facets in the lower cervical spine are kind of dome shaped, which means that you need to restore lower cervical flexion, if you will. If we're thinking old school, it'd be flexion, to create rotation to the ipsilateral side. So if we're looking at the left side of the neck, I need lower cervical flexion to recapture left rotation. Now, there's a combination of factors here to help you restore that motion. And that means I also need upper dorsal rostral, to be specific, upper dorsal rostral expansion on the same side that I'm trying to turn the neck towards. So if I'm restricted in the dorsal rostral area and I'm trying to get the cervical spine to capture that end range rotation, good luck with that if this doesn't expand. So don't forget that. So how can I tell whether I have that upper dorsal rostral expansion? So now we got to go to your shoulder flexion measure. So end range shoulder flexion, so about the last 60 degrees or so of shoulder flexion on the ipsilateral side demands that you have this upper dorsal rostral expansion. So if I have somebody that comes in with a neck complaint and I'm not attending to this shoulder flexion measure, I might be missing something. So put them on the table. Check ipsilateral shoulder flexion. If you don't have end range shoulder flexion, then chances are you don't have end range lower cervical rotation to the ipsilateral side. Now, let's just say that it looks like you do have shoulder flexion, and they still can't turn their head to end range rotation to that side, and you've checked out upper cervical looks great. You take lower cervical out of the equation, you check it, you say, well, I've got 45 degrees of upper cervical rotation and it looks like I've got full shoulder flexion. Go to the ipsilateral hip. Check the ipsilateral hip, because the mechanics in the sacrum and the lumbar spine interact exactly the same way as the dorsal rostral and the cervical spine do. And so under almost every case, you will have sort of this mirror with the iteration between the pelvis and the thorax that will help you identify whether you do have this dorsal rostral limitation, even if it appears that you have shoulder flexion for whatever reason, because there might be a table orientation of the thorax that makes it look like you have full shoulder flexion. But I would go down and I would check the ipsilateral hip as your confirmation. So here you go. So for the cervical spine, you've got a shoulder confirmation and you've got a hip confirmation that will help guide you as to whether you're recapturing this full rotational capabilities of the lower cervical spine. So Rick, I hope that helps you, guides you a little bit and helps you clean up the rest of this stuff. Everybody have a great Wednesday. I'm going to go finish my coffee and then it's off to the clinic today. So have a great day.